Well, it's the day before Christmas Eve, and normally news would grind to a halt at times like this. It's also a good time, typically, for governing institutions to try and get in, let's say, unpopular things that normally might receive some scrutiny under the radar, without people noticing, because everyone's so focused on, preparing for Christmas and whatnot. But this year, that's not the case. There's a lot going on, and in fact, I actually had to, decide between multiple things of, what to talk about today. I myself am kind of busy preparing for Christmas, but I still think that there's things left that I want to talk about. I'm going to try and take tomorrow and Christmas Day off from doing this, so I don't have to worry about, uploading anything. But today, Trump has just vetoed the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, and this is something I was hoping he would do. But it's kind of a matter of, well, is it important? Is it still a good thing if he does it for not necessarily the reason I was hoping for? I mean, to me, the NDAA is terrible because it's this massive bill that funds the warfare state. It's a series of handouts to the military-industrial complex. That's what the NDAA is every year. It's the budget for the Pentagon. But Trump essentially wanted a repeal of Section 230 of the, Communications Decency Act, which applies to social media stuff. And there's plenty of people who talk about Section 230. I don't need to go on about that. But I was hoping that if Trump is going to, not sign the NDAA, which, I'd rather him not sign it than sign it under any circumstances. But if he's going to, go out on a limb and not sign it, I prefer he do it for the reason of, trying to end the wars, saying, hey, I can't morally sign this bill knowing that it will go to enrich defense contractors at the expense of not only the American taxpayer, but of, innocent lives overseas. For example, he could say, hey, I'm going to veto the NDAA unless you put in a provision to fund pulling troops out of Afghanistan. Because Congress actually has done the opposite. They've tried to remove funding from Trump to make it illegal for him to use any, federal funds to move troops out of Afghanistan. That's a real fight over the NDAA that I would like to have, but we just don't live in that world. We don't live in a world where people really care about the NDAA. It's kind of funny that people are so much more concerned about Section 230 than they are about the foreign wars that our country is still involved in, about the the needless deaths that occur every day. And yes, a lot of those are American soldiers, but the vast majority of them are just innocent civilians from countries that none of us will ever visit or ever really have a reason to care about. I guess there's some good news in that, we're pulling troops out of Somalia, but are they really leaving? No, they're going from Somalia and they're just going to move over to Ethiopia or something and still continue their operations in Somalia. They're just not going to be based in Somalia. And, when I see crap like that, it's like, what's the point? I felt from the beginning that, this was one of Trump's greatest failures, not pulling the troops out, because I feel like he was very easily convinced not to do so. We were supposed to be out of Afghanistan, in the first 100 days or something. And then he comes in and he gives this big speech, and he's like, I've been thinking about this whole pulling troops out of Afghanistan thing, and the generals tell me it's a bad idea, so we're not going to do it. And, as soon as I heard that, it was very disappointing. Because, there's only so far that Trump is going to go with this kind of stuff. And I very closely monitored, the negotiations between Zalmay Khalilzad and the Taliban, and I was very happy when they finally, hammered out a deal, whatever it was. The nature of it was almost, the details were almost irrelevant as far as I was concerned, as long as the end result was U.S. troops leave. And, there doesn't seem to have been much progress. Not enough, I should say. Because sure, there's been some progress, but that progress can be easily reversed once, Joe Biden gets into office, which again, barring a miracle on January 6th, I don't think is going to happen. I think that the January 6th is important in that people need to get on the record that there was problems with this election, use it as a platform. But I don't see Mike Pence trying to assert his authority as the president of the Senate and just throw out the electoral votes from certain states. Maybe I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll apologize to Mike Pence. But as of now, it does not look like Mike Pence is going to do that. So no matter what happens on January 6th, they're going to put up a good fight. But I think Biden ultimately will win. And as long as you still have, as long as the U.S. military still has its foot in the door of Afghanistan, Biden's going to be able to push, a few thousand more troops right back in there. The only way to truly end a war is not to, draw it down to where we have a smaller presence. You have to get rid of them completely, because then the only way to put more troops back in there is to, start over from scratch and invade the country again. Now, in addition to this whole thing with the NDAA, there's also the matter of that so-called COVID relief bill that I discussed yesterday. It was a total joke. Trump came out last night, put out this 4-minute video detailing all the ridiculous provisions that are in there, how many billions and billions of dollars go to things that aren't helping people. The way I heard the bill summed up pretty well was that, hey, the bill costs each American $2,700. It costs $2,700 in taxpayer money per person in America, but these people are only getting $600 back. So it's essentially a transfer of $2,100 from, the average American to whatever few interested parties benefit from this whole omnibus spending bill. And so Trump righteously tore into that last night and said, no 600, we need 2,000. And Nancy Pelosi, very happy to oblige, wants to amend the existing bill and just change the number from 600 to 2,000. She would be very happy to do that. And the unfortunate thing is Trump might then sign that, even though it leaves in all of the other garbage, essentially just increasing the size of the bill without getting rid of any of the corruption. Although Trump said, in his speech that that's what he wanted, that he's going to veto it over that. Or I don't know if he exactly used the word veto, but that seemed to be the indication. I have a feeling that there will be a compromise that, okay, well, we'll increase the payments to the individuals, but we're still going to keep all the money for our friends and cronies. I can't think of the last time that Congress passed a so-called clean bill on anything. But if there was ever a time to demand it, would be now, because I think the popular opinion in this country would certainly be on Trump's side. And, I get that nobody cares about deficits, but, they don't matter until they do. As far as things are concerned now, I mean, do we really want to go another $900 billion in debt and giving all but $90 billion of that just out to special interest groups? I mean, it's almost $1 trillion. So that's where we stand heading into Christmas. Like I said, I'll be waiting for the news on January 6th. I'll be covering anything that happens in the meantime about these two bills. I don't expect great news about these bills, but hopefully, there might be something positive to come out of January 6th. And of course, there's the word about the protests by Trump supporters on January 6th. It's supposed to take place in Washington. I'll be looking very closely to see what turnout is like for that event. So with all that said, if you gain anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I do load it every day and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.